Okay, so you had 5. How many numbers did you have between 45.8 and 52.3? You had 7. How many numbers did you have between 52.4 and 58.9? 6. How about this one? 1. And then the other one was 3. So you got your frequency distribution. Okay, now another way to do this part of the frequency distribution is to use the calculator. The calculator can do it for you. Now I've put some things in there already. So basically what we have is this. If I want to use my calculator and do this, my first step would be to enter my numbers. Okay? So these raw data, these raw numbers, I put into L2. L3, basically, I sorted that. So I could find my lower and my upper limit. My lowest number and my highest number. Okay? But basically what I did was I put the numbers into L2. Now, do you know how to do that?
Nope, never
Okay.
had one.
Go ahead and we go to Stat and Edit. And then you start entering numbers in. So we enter these numbers. 49.8, 71.8, 65.9, and all I'm doing is entering these numbers. It's a data entry. So again, go Stat and Edit, and then there's like a little blinking light. Now, should it be on this one? Should it be on L1? You can move it over by the right and left arrow. See, move it right and left like this. And then you just enter it. Go 49.8 and enter. 71.8 and enter. And so on. That's how you enter them. Questions on how to enter data into the calculator? Okay, our next step is going to be to set up our calculator in order to do the frequencies. To do that, we're going to press the second button, the yellow for the 83, the blue I think it is for the 84. We press second and Y equals. You see that? Go second and Y equals. Second and Y equals. That gives you something called the stat plots. Now you want to enter on the first one. Okay? So you want to enter on the first one. Just press enter. All you have to do is press enter. Okay? And you get a different menu. Now, if it's not on, if it's highlighted here, it might be highlighted like this. Okay? Just go left arrow and press enter until it's blinking on. You have just turned on something on the calculator. You turned a function onto the calculator. So any questions on that?
Yes. Can you show that again?
Okay, let's say that you're here. Okay, let's say that we're here. We're going, okay, stat, edit, so enter our numbers. Then we're going to go to second and Y equals to get our stat plots.
That's where I can't find that on mine.
Okay. Where are you?
I hit second, but I don't see Y equals.
On the top?
Mine has different on it.
She got the
Ooh, T86? Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to talk to you
that
about
function's
that.
not on here.
Yeah, that's a different function. It's a different way. That's why we always say, please do 83 or 84,
Okay.
not the 86. 86 is more geared towards calculus and pre-calculus.
Yeah.
Then- Okay, so we have second and Y equals. That gives us a stat plot. We enter on the first one. And notice it's highlighted off. Just enter and it's highlighted on. Now, the type has to be this one. See how this looks like a little histogram? Little bar graph? That's the one you want for histogram. And it has to be highlighted. See how it's black right there? Now, you want your X list to be what list we have the numbers in. What list do I have my numbers in?
L2.
L2. So what I'm going to do is, when I have this, I'm going to put it in L2. Notice it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and what's in yellow? L1, L2, L3, right? So if I say the yellow and L2, it puts L2 in there. Now the frequency, basically that's your y-axis, and you just want to keep it at 1. It's your scale. Okay? So now we have everything that we need. So now what we're going to do is we're going to press the zoom button. Press the zoom button. And one of them is called a zoom stat. It's the number 9. So we could scroll down here to zoom stat, which is number 9, and press enter. We're not done yet, because this is the calculator doing it instead of us. So we have zoom stat, and we get our little histogram, right? But we want to change our class width. What was our class width?
12.
12. So in order to do that, we're going to hit the window. See it right there, the window?
6.6.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about the
Okay,
last-
I'm sorry, yeah.
last one.
So it was, so let's hit the window. Now what was our width? 6.6, right? And where do you put it? Where it says X scale. That's the scale for the X axis. Okay? X scale. Now you're going to graph. You're going to hit the graph button. Not the zoom 9, but the graph. Okay? So now you want to check yourself. Now how many classes did we have? 7. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 classes, right? So what? I don't get any information from that. Well, let's look at this. Press the trace button.
How did you get back from the scale?
I'm sorry?
How did you get back from the scale?
Windows. And from there, how did I get back? Okay, graph.
Graph.
Press graph. And then press trace. Okay, so now let's look at this. See our first bar? What is the frequency? 1. Let's look at the next one. What is our frequency for the next one? Okay, what about the next one? What do you think the next one's going to be? 5. Look at that. Your N here is your 5. Okay, what about the next one?
Well, isn't that
7. And the next one? And the next one? And the last one? 3. Okay? So basically, you have a way to doing it on the calculator that will count your frequency. That's the best thing for it, is to do the frequency. So are there any questions on that? Okay. So basically, we have the meat and potatoes done here. Everything else is basically the same stuff that you had to do before. Cumulative frequency, you just had to add them, right? The first one is 1. What about the next one? 3. And the next one? 8.
15. 21. 22.
25. Okay. Percent distribution is the same thing as relative frequency. So we take 1 divided by
25?
25. 2 divided by 25. 5 divided by 25. 7 divided by 25, and so on, right? Okay, so are there any questions on this? So let's just go ahead and fill the rest of it out, okay? So, because this is what you're going to have on MyStatLab. You're going to have one on MyStatLab, which is going to be, they're going to give you the frequency table. Okay, and from that frequency table, they're going to say, okay, what's the lower limit? Or what is the upper limit? So let's say that we have that. Let's say that we have this table already. Let's say that we have this table right there. Let me go ahead and you know how to do these. But we have this table, and they're going to say, what are the lower class limits? What are they? 26.0, 32.6, 39.2, 45.8, 52.4, 59.0, and 65.6, right? What are the upper class limits?
39, 45, 46, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156
So are there any questions on this? Okay, the next thing is the class midpoint. So how are we going to get a class midpoint? Well, let's find the first one. Okay, go ahead. I have to minimize this a little bit. So we have our first class is what? 26 plus 32.5. And then we divide by 2. So our first class midpoint is 29.25, right? What is our next one? Well, we just have to add what? Right, our class width, and we get 6.6.
Should we be rounding it to 1 to 10th though?
No, just leave those not rounded. Don't worry about those. Just
I thought everything had to be in tenths.
no. Not these. Now, the class width.
I thought we're doing midpoints.
Okay, your class width. Now, how do we get the next one? 6.6, and then what about the next one? Same thing, right? And then we have probably that one and 62.25 for that one. And the last one, right? You get that. So those are your class midpoints. So are there any questions on that? No questions at all. Okay. Class boundaries. Well, class width. Again, you are going to have a test question or my stat lab question where you get just this, nothing else, and they say, what's the class width? The biggest mistake that students make is this. They forget and they think it's raw data, and they say, well, the lowest number minus the highest number divided by how many classes. You can't do that when you don't have raw data. When you have a table, just find your sequential numbers and then subtract them. So that would be 32.6 minus 26, which gives you 6.6, and that's your class width. Okay? So be careful with that. When you give in a table, it's not the same as raw data. Okay? You have to find it differently. Are there any questions on what I have just said? No questions. Okay. And then class boundaries. Look at this now. Before you were saying, well, we can subtract 0.5 and add 0.5, right? Well, can we do that here? No, not really. Look what happens here. We have 32.5 plus 32.6. So we have, let me go ahead and do this, 32.5 plus 32.6. We divide them by 2, and we get what? 32.55. So here's your lower boundary for this one. Okay. What about on the other side? So we have this one, 32.55 here. 39.15. Okay, good. So, look, let's go ahead and do another one. 39.1 plus 39.2 divided by 2, 39.15. So what's happening now? Before, you had data that was whole numbers, and on the boundaries you were subtracting 0.5 and adding 0.5, right? Now you have the 10th place values, and what are you subtracting and adding now? 0.05. So it goes one down, right? It goes one
So
low.
it's okay now to be in the hundreds instead of the tens.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So what would the first one be before the 26?
So you tell me.
25.9. Point nine.
25.95. On the class boundaries, the only place you're really going to see it is on the My Stat Lab, okay? And I'm not sure how far you're going to do on that, but it's the only place you're going to see it. Yeah, I'm not going to put it on test. I don't think I've seen it on the final, not yet.
Class boundaries
Okay.
are not on the test.
I'm sorry?
Class boundaries are not on the test.
I'm not going to say that yet,
Oh,
okay?
can we do this
Because I haven't seen the new final.
Can we, start back at
So
the,
45.8 down.
okay, so we add it, then we divide it, then we,
Okay, let me show you. For class boundaries, take these two numbers, see these two numbers? Add them and divide by 2. So 32.5 plus 32.6 is going to give you what?
55.1.
Divided by 2?
32.55.
32.55, right? That goes over here, 32.55. Okay? Then take these two, 39.1 plus 39.2, that gives you what? What does that give you?
78.3.
78.3, now divided by 2, and you get 39.15, and it goes here.
Okay.
And then you do that same thing when it goes here. Well, this was what? This was 32.55. That would be 32.55 also. Because your whole point of boundaries is to make them equal so that those walls touch. So yes,
Right on.
this upper boundary and this lower boundary are going to be the same number. Your question?
Can you just add the 2 and divide it, and then take that number and just add the width to it?
Yes,
Each time.
definitely.
And then subtract the width.
Yes. Yes.
So when you get to the end, what you say, you just subtract the.
In other words, let's look at this one. 65.5 and 65.6. You have 65, let me do this. Well, let's do it this way. Let's do it with this one right here. We had 32.5, okay, plus 32.6 divided by 2. Your class boundary right here is 32.55, right? Okay, so if I add 6.6, I'm going to get 39.15, which wasn't that our boundary that we found the other ways? Okay, and you can keep on doing that and adding it on one side. And on this side, just remember, you're going the opposite. You're not adding, you're subtracting. Okay, to get the other ones. Are there any questions on that? Okay, so we get all these. So are there any questions on histogram? Because basically this is the finished finale for histogram for us, except for working with them. You're not going to be finished with them because you're going to be working with them all throughout the semester. But basically, this is how we construct them, okay? By using frequency tables. Now, any questions on that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So, okay, after we add 6.6 to all of it, where do we subtract 6.6?
What I'm saying is this. On this side, you're adding right there like that, right? But now, to get this one, you can't add anything. You'd have to subtract.
Okay.
See, this is going to, well, what was it again? 31.55? So 31.55 minus 6.6 to get this one right here.
Okay.
That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so now, histograms. And why do we do histograms? Like I said, histogram tells us something about the distribution of the data. For a statistician, it's very important. For a researcher, it's very important. Because if you don't fit the right distribution to your data, all of your work is for nothing. You might as well just not have done it. Okay? So you got to fit the data to a distribution in order to be able to analyze that data correctly. Now, there's several different types of distributions that we're going to be talking about. You might want to write this down. Okay? Now, this one has 2 peaks. We call that one a bimodal distribution. So that one has 2 peaks, and it's called a bimodal distribution. You don't have to, you can just rough draw it, okay? You don't have to draw it totally exact. Just give a rough drawing on it. Yes, histogram A is called a bimodal distribution. Okay, can I continue? Histogram B is what we call a symmetrical distribution. Why? Well, if you put it right in the middle, it's equal on both sides. It's a mirror image. You ever gone to those fun houses or whatever that you put your arm and your leg on one side and it looks like you're flying or something? You're above the symmetrical, symmetry. That's what this is about. You have equal on both sides, or equal things on both sides. Symmetric distribution. Now your book puts the cart before the horse sometimes, and it also calls it normal. So on my stat lab, they might also call this a normal distribution, which it is, but you shouldn't be learning about that until chapter 6. But like I said, this book sometimes puts some things ahead of where you should be learning. But the reason I'm telling you is because on my stat lab, it might ask for a normal distribution. It might say normal. So this is either symmetric or normal. That's how we call it. Okay, one other thing we're going to learn today is going to be about the means, the medians, the modes, and how they affect distributions. Okay? Now we'll talk about that later on. But one of the things is that this right here, notice how it has a peak on this side, and it looks like it goes down like this. It pinches out down there like that. What happens there, that's going to be squeezed out on the right side. So we call that skew to the right. We have skew to the right, or, now think about number lines. On the right side, you have what kind of numbers? Positive numbers on the number line. On the right side, you have positive numbers. On the left side, you have. So we may say skew to the right or positively skewed. It's another terminology. Either skew to the right or positively skewed. Okay, are we ready? Continue. Okay, think about histogram D. On this one, they're all the same. They're all the same height. Same equal distance, same height. Uniform. They're uniform height. It's called a uniform distribution. Uniform distribution. Okay, now the last one, notice this one was squeezing on the right side, and it was called skew to the right. This is squeezing on the left side, what should we call it? Skew to the left. Skew to the left. Or negatively skewed.